You're listening to the British Baseball Podcast. I'm joined today by Rich Minford, the head coach of the London Mets Baseball Club. Rich, how are we doing?
Doing great today. Thanks for having me on, Matt. Looking forward to the conversation.
The pleasure is all mine. I'd like to say that one of my new staff members, Mariana Casal, has wrote these questions for today. I've added a few in there myself because she was really excited to get involved, but unfortunately she's got a last minute project that she's been called away on. So she's been really excited. She had so many questions to ask. Like, I was looking at it, I was like, this is where I'm going wrong. I need people to write my questions for me. They're all great. So Mariana, thank you very much for the content. So we're going to start off with the question of all questions. Who is Rich Minford?
Yeah, it's certainly a good place to start. So I was born in South Carolina, in Columbia. Spent first couple of years of my life there before the family moved up to Western North Carolina. If you've heard of Appalachian State University and a town called Boone, where we moved is about 45 minutes from there, but it's the nearest landmark that people might have heard of is Boone, but it's nestled up in the Appalachian Mountains right on the Tennessee border. Real pretty country. So we moved up there. My dad and my mom were Christmas tree farmers. So that was the primary motivator for the move. Is dad had been growing Christmas trees up there and kind of managing them on the weekends. And that's what, he was really trying to build a business around. So that was the intent behind the move, was get up there, grow some trees, and then ended up selling them back down into the market he developed and established in Columbia. So started playing baseball at a very young age in Western North Carolina. Spent my childhood there with my younger brother Mitchell, my older sister Cassidy, and then went off to college, University of North Carolina. Spent a few years up in Philadelphia working after that, and then New York. Then made my way over to London, middle of 2015, and been over here for about 6 years. Yeah, so started playing baseball when I was about 4, growing up in the States, and yeah, it was fortunate that it's a big part of the culture there, and played pretty much every position I could. I pitched and hit, infield, outfield, caught, really anything, kind of growing up through Little League, through AAU, and kind of travel baseball is real big in the southern part of the U.S.
Yeah.
So just got real into that, and was very fortunate that so my parents are Christmas tree farmers, and they own their own business, and they were pretty flexible schedule, and I was fortunate to have my dad be able to kind of coach me for a lot of my the earlier stage, kind of before I got to high school, which was a really cool opportunity. And his flexibility around kind of being able to set his own schedule at work was afforded us to spend a lot of time together on the baseball field, which was pretty special. Got to high school, and we ended up moving from Avery County over to Boone, because my mom she wanted to be a teacher, and so she went back to college and got her teaching degree. And it was also, had the opportunity to go to the school in kind of a bigger county, which had a better baseball program, better academics. So ended up being fortunate enough to do that, and started playing baseball at Watauga High School. 4A, which is one of the, it's the biggest classification of high school in the public system in North Carolina, at least, and got thrown into the deep end with playing baseball in a very strong conference. And I was pretty undersized at the time. We met in person. I'm 6'5" and maybe 230 now, but in high school I was a pretty scrawny kid and pretty unathletic, but had put countless hours into the game, where I was fundamentally pretty competent, and did the best that I could the physical skill set I had at the time. Wish I would have grown a little bit earlier. That would have potentially changed my trajectory. But things worked out okay in the end for me. But yeah, I played JV baseball, junior varsity baseball in high school for the first couple of years, and then sat on the bench the majority of my junior year, because we're just in an absolutely loaded conference, and guys like Madison Bumgarner, he pitched in at a school just down the road from us, South Caldwell, obviously a World Series MVP for the San Francisco Giants back in 2014, and a first round draft pick. So he's a tough guy to go up against in high school, and he was throwing low 90s in high school. He didn't have command of his off-speed stuff at any point there, but it was made for a pretty challenging environment. But it was a lot of fun. Then my senior year, I was kind of on the fringe to be our number two, potentially our number two starter on the mound. This is actually junior year. I was trying to kind of make the case for being a starting pitcher for my high school team. And my first start, I go out there and I'm throwing, I'm pretty undersized at the time, and throwing, low 70s, and throwing curveballs over top and from 3/4 and from the side and from submarine. Does anything I can do to try to get guys out, and go out. And we're playing against a out of conference team called North Forsyth, and first batter up, I go out and I strike him out, and I'm like, all right, maybe I got a shot at this. Maybe my stuff's a little better than I think. And then the number two hitter comes up as a kid named Dustin Ackley, who ended up playing for the Seattle Mariners for a couple of years down the road. Goes up and hits a ball that doesn't get over about 6 feet high off the ground, but hits the fence in the air. He just hit it that hard, and I didn't make it out of the first inning after that, and that kind of dashed my pitching hopes for high school. I ended up actually catching my senior year. I ended up throwing, recognized that I wasn't the most fleet-footed, but had a pretty good arm, and threw a lot of guys out behind the plate. So I ended up having a lot of fun. But I ended up hanging up the cleats after high school, just because I was probably good enough to go play at a small Division II or Division III school, but really wanted to go to the University of North Carolina, which is an absolute baseball powerhouse. And I was nowhere near the caliber of baseball player at that point to play there.
What a shame. When you had like talent like Bumgarner around as a youth, did it drive you even more, or was it just like really intimidating, like especially around the other pool of players that you were with?
Yeah, I loved it. I really loved it. Those were some of the funnest at bats, going in there for the first time. I'm a big believer that, personal growth comes from throwing yourself in front of the hardest version of the problem or the challenge possible. Throw yourself in the deep end, create discomfort. And that's those kind of moments are going to help you figure out how to succeed at that or at other things in life. And so, I loved facing Bumgarner. I got my first at bat I ever had against him. I was worked him to a 3-2 count, and he throws me a low and away fastball, and I just get just enough of it to knock a ground ball up the middle for a base hit. And then he got me out the next 8 times in a row the rest of the season. So I was 1 for 9 career off of Bumgarner, but I did get that one seeing eye ground ball single for a knock.
That's amazing. Did you know back then that he was going to be something pretty big? Did everybody sort of know?
Yeah, people knew that he was going to definitely get drafted. But in terms of is he going to be a World Series MVP, that the 2014 performances that he put on in the World Series, where he had those 3 outings and came out of the pen in Game 7. I mean, that's one of the grittiest baseball performances that I've seen. And I can't say that I could have predicted that, playing against him in high school. I thought he might get to the pro, to the MLB level. But he exceeded those expectations.
Oh, cool. That's amazing. So how did you discover British baseball then?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was only supposed to be over here for a 6-month rotation, and then I was supposed to head back to New York. But as it happens, met a girl, and have stayed over here for quite a while, and we're now engaged. And she's British Australian, but I've got her into the baseball family a little bit, and she's endlessly supportive, of which I'm very appreciative. But yeah, I got over here, and growing up where I grew up, baseball is it's uniquely American. It's a very American thing. And so I had no knowledge of, the international baseball community and really any capacity before getting out here, and sort of stumbled my way into it through a colleague of mine who stumbled onto the London Mets. And I had, I had been staying pretty active, but not playing baseball for a while since high school. But was interested in kind of getting back into it. And I'll get into more like the baseball journey that sort of led to that. But got got over to a London Mets practice one day, and John Crammon, the skipper at the time, and Ethan Solomon, who's one of the pitchers, were over there, and got to know them a little bit. I was like, this is a pretty interesting outfit, and potentially a pretty fascinating way to kind of re-enter back into the game.
Tell us some of your favorite memories from your time playing with the Mets.
Yeah. Oh man, it's been such a great journey. So I joined the team in 2017, and again didn't know what to make of it and what to make of British baseball in general. But it's just a phenomenal group of guys, and I've been deeply appreciative of some of the friendships I've forged in the process. That's been a big part of it, and the baseball's been better than I expected as well. We the first time I really got tested, we had a day where we went out kind of early in the season in 2016, and John Crammon, the skipper, is kind of feeling me out. I'm kind of feeling the team out a little bit, and but it's neither knew what to expect from the other. And we go out in the first game. We're playing against Southampton, who had beat the Mets in the national championship in the year before in 2016, and generally pretty solid contender. They had a guy, Ray Martinez, who's been around the British baseball for a while and a big part of GB, and throws pretty hard, competent pitcher. He was pitching against us in the first game, and we ended up going into extra innings and winning that one. And then I hadn't really done any pitching to that point in the season. We go into game two, and our starter, we were a little short staffed. I think we had one of our outfielders was starting on the mound, and he got shelled and got taken out, I think, in the second inning. And so John gave me the ball, and I despite being away from the game for a little while, I found it pretty quick. Wasn't maybe the sharpest. I think I hit a few guys, walked a few guys, but got started to get a feel for it, and ended up pitching, 5 or 6 innings. And then we had an American guy ended up hitting a walk-off home run that day. And that was really the day I really fell in love with the team, and really reignited my love for the game on the playing side of things. So that was obviously great. And then, winning the national championship that year, and then kind of going into 2018 is really starting to set our sights on, the international competition and the Confederation of European Baseball's qualifier cup that the Mets had competed in a few times. We went and played in Bulgaria, didn't win, defended our national championship, went back to CBs in 2019 in Russia, didn't win. And so a lot of great memories. But the exciting thing is, despite us being a bit of a powerhouse in British baseball and having 4 consecutive national championships, we as a team we have more aspirations, and we really want to go and make our mark on this European tournament. And we're about three and a half weeks from going and doing just that back in Bulgaria for the CEBs in early August.
Yeah. So what do you think then is needed from you and your team to take that next step to be more of a powerhouse in Europe?
I would say one of the biggest challenges is, there's a bit of a dissonance between the level of baseball that you see every single week, week in and week out in the UK versus then what you see when you go in and you play in a European tournament. And so I think the big thing for us is just, getting everybody in the mindset of you've got to bring enough focus to where maybe the standard of the game is not what you're going to see in Europe. But you've got to set that standard. And that's what we talk a lot about the Mets on, and not something I invented. It's something that John did a good job of shepherding Drew Spencer as well. It's, we want the London Mets to really set the standard of, playing the game in the right way, regardless of, don't play down to the competition, set the standard and set what, we want the game to look like. But that takes focus, and it can be hard when you're out there and you've got guys that have played at an extremely high level of baseball, and you're playing on, maybe not the best fields, and maybe not the best competition, but there's still opportunities to learn and to get better in that. And it just takes more focus, because those games when you're going in and it's like you're in an absolute dogfight, the focus and the energy, it kind of is bred from that competition. And where that's lacking, it takes a lot more mental toughness and energy to really kind of stay locked in and stay focused and to get the most out of it. I think that's the first one. And then the second one is just, how do you approach practice? A lot of times, and a lot of, when I see a lot of kind of training setups in the UK, I see a lot of people that are, doing things that feel comfortable to them. They're doing BP the way that they've always done it. They're just kind of focused on, how do I catch as many barrels as possible in a session? And that you don't get better by doing that. You don't get better with just doing reps. You've got to figure out how to create discomfort in practice. That's what I think one of the most important things. And that's what we try to do at the Mets in our midweek training sessions, which we've really upped the intensity around of the last year. Get the pitching machine out, ramp it up to 88 miles an hour and beat guys, because you need to fail in practice. Otherwise you're not going to get any better. And that's something that we've really focused on this year as well.
Really interesting. Thank you for that. You mentioned as well before, let's take you back a little bit, that it'd been a while since you sort of played baseball and then find it over here. What was it then that made you want to seek baseball out again and get back into the game?
Yeah, it's a good question. I maintain a distant connectivity with it by virtue of, occasionally playing in, corporate softball leagues once I started working and got out of college. Because at that point, by the time when I was a junior in college and I was thinking about, do I want to play, or junior in high school, and I was thinking about, do I want to play in college? I was 5'10", 160 pounds, and not particularly athletic. And I didn't finish growing until about sophomore year at college. And at that point, I was more athletic, a lot bigger, a lot stronger. And so when I graduated college, I started playing a little corporate softball, and, everything felt a lot easier. And I initially just attribute that, you're playing beer league softball, it's very different. But the more I kind of hit through, I was like, all right, well, you're also a lot stronger, and the arm's kind of there. And so I did have some questions about that and wanted to answer them. And so I went and I joined a men's baseball league in Philadelphia. I was like, I'll get back on the mound and throw a little bit to see how it feels. And it actually felt great. And I was about to start a season and ended up blowing my ACL out in my left knee playing American football. And I was like, well, maybe this isn't meant to be, and kind of had to go through the whole rehab process, and ended up moving to New York. So I didn't see the output from that experiment, but the question kind of lingered. And so when I ended up over in London and the opportunity came up by chance, I was like, all right, I need to answer this question. And I'm certainly glad that I've done that.
Yeah. I bet the Mets are pretty chuffed too. So you've taken over the reins from the now GB head coach Drew Spencer. When you were playing with the Mets, did you ever see coaching and management as a path that you wanted to take? And also, what was it that made you ultimately decide to throw your hat into the ring for the job?
Yeah, to be honest, I definitely I definitely figured I would do some coaching down the road at some point. I didn't expect it to be now, and sort of in this capacity, in a head coach capacity. It was really just a function of some things happening at the same time. So Drew, who did such an excellent job at the helm of the Mets, getting a bigger opportunity, and to run all of GB baseball, which is phenomenal. And I was so happy for him, and think they made a great decision because he's the right guy for that
Yeah.
job. But that left a vacancy. That was kind of the first piece, and then the second piece is in 2020. I blew out my right elbow, completely tore my UCL, which requires Tommy John surgery, and I also banged up my left shoulder, tore my rotator cuff and my bicep where it hooks into the shoulder. So I kind of I kind of mangled both of my arms in the course of 2020, both of which required surgery, which are both pretty intensive from a rehab perspective. And it was clear to me that I wasn't going to be on the baseball field in 2021, at least in the way that I wanted, and definitely not on the mound for the Mets. And so and looking around, I kind of thought, it, it would give us some breathing room on finding the right long-term manager for the London Mets if I could kind of step up here. And I've been playing a leadership role on the team. I've been the captain of the team the last couple of years. I'd gotten a little bit of a taste of coaching, helping out as Drew brought me on board with the under 23 GB team as a operations manager, but he let me coach first base as well. So I started to see kind of some sides of it, and and knew that it was big shoes to fill, but felt like the right thing to do for the team, given the circumstances. And as I said before, I think I'm not really a vision setter or a dream setter. I just where I see hard things that have some urgency in front of them, I just kind of throw myself in front of that thing. And that's been the way I've kind of lived my life. And this was another kind of opportunity to do that in a time that made sense. And haven't looked back.
That's cool. Well, you mentioned then about the injuries. They sounded pretty bad, and I hope you're on the mend. Were you pretty worried then that you were going to be away for baseball for quite an amount of time before you knew about the coaching position, or had you had a plan in your head to stay involved in baseball?
Yeah. In terms of the first part of the question, it certainly wasn't easy, facing the reality that I've got Tommy John rehab's a full year, and it was increasingly anxiety filled, as it's not something that surgeons surgeons in the UK see too often, because it's very much a baseball specific injury, but was
Yeah.
able to find a guy actually up in your neck of the woods, that had dealt with some javelin throwers with the injury, and it did end up doing a fantastic job. But yeah, I mean, I was not particularly happy about it, but it's one of those things where you can be unhappy about it, but that worrying, and it's not going to help anything. So in reality, it's like, get the operations done as soon as you can get them on the books, and then start the rehab and take that stuff seriously, which is extremely tedious for both of them, and especially
Yeah.
when you've got two two pretty significant operations to do right in a row. Did them about 12 weeks apart. You get, just when one arm starts feeling good, the other one goes under the knife, and and then you're kind of doing them both at the same time. It was an unpleasant experience, but so what? You kind of gotta handle it, because I want to get back on the field, and think my best years of playing baseball are ahead of me, even though I'm 32 and should be on kind of the decline. I refuse to believe that, and we'll go from there. But again, having the opportunity to the London, it's the group of guys is so great, and the opportunity to help them out in any way that I could, and maybe maybe there are better people for the job that are more experience. I'm sure, I'm sure a case could be made for that. But my goal is, I love these guys, and I want to do as much as I can to help them. And right now, I think they need that manager role filled with somebody that gets the team, gets the culture, gets what we're trying to do, and can be effective in that capacity. And that's what I've worked hard to try to do.
Fantastic. Has becoming a coach changed your perspective or feelings towards the game?
Yeah, definitely. It's been eye-opening for sure. It's been a humbling experience. It's been very, very hard. I think I kind of getting into the job, my appreciation for coaches of the past has certainly gone up significantly, because it's not easy, and there's a lot of little stuff that good coaches make look easy that are not easy. And they're, you've got, there's so many facets and layers to it. You can think about just what does it take to put together a lineup on the field at any given time. That's kind of the simplest form of the opportunity at hand. But then that goes all the way up to, the best coaches. And I'm not saying I'm having this influence in any capacity to date, but certainly something I would aspire to. But the best coaches are, they see it as an opportunity to develop, better human beings independent of baseball. And so, as you start to get access to that kind of opportunity, it's quite eye-opening in terms of, you really are in a position where, you can help make people's lives better and in general. And that's pretty cool. Can be a little bit overwhelming, but again, it's kind of, there are layers, and there's a huge sliding scale to the type of impact that you can have. And I definitely feel like I'm kind of competent down here, but over time, that's kind of the goal. But yeah, developed a lot more appreciation for coaches to come before. My dad, huge part of that. Pete Hardy was my high school coach. He was a great baseball coach. And then coming back over here, John Crammon welcoming me to the Mets family, and then Drew, who did a phenomenal job with the team. It's a lot of appreciation there. I think the second thing I'd probably say is, one thing that makes it, one thing that's quite challenging is every player is different, and I'm a very specific type of baseball player, and recognizing who you are as a baseball player, and also that, people, you're going to have a lot of people that play the game and kind of, there are very different types of baseball players that you've got to be able to enable and kind of help make better and develop as players and people. And that can be a challenge. Like for me personally, I'm like a field-based player. I'm not particularly analytical when it comes to the game of baseball. And I, when I go up and I'm in an at bat, I'm generally hacking first couple of pitches, and I'm not particularly selective. And, so your initial, at least my initial kind of thinking was like, all right, talk to people about the way I play the game, instead of look at how they play the game and then figure out how does that map to their specific strengths and weaknesses, and how do you accelerate that. And that's a hard thing to do, because you kind of want to, the easiest thing to do is just like, hey, this is how Rich Minford plays baseball, and it works for him, so it should work for you. And that's a pretty broken model, but can be easy to slip into. And I've certainly felt that at different times in the year.
That's cool. So have you had to change much in terms of personality and character when transitioning from player and everyone's mate into the head coach role?
Yeah, I think the short answer is no. And I think that I think when people try to do that, I think that often breaks pretty quickly. I think, when I'm standing up in front of the guys, I know if I'm trying to adopt some sort of persona that's not authentically me, and I'm trying to put on like a coaching act, they're going to see right through that. And that's not going to feel genuine or authentic or real. The majority of these guys I've known and spent a ton of time with over the last 4 years. And I think, something I recognized up front and talking to, a couple of coaches who'd made the transition. Dave Turgeon is a guy who I talked to and really hammered this home for me in the off season, who's the GB crew connected me up with, because he's quite close with him. But he manages a AA team for the Pittsburgh Pirates. He's obviously a very successful baseball guy. But it's the one thing that he said is like, you got to be yourself, because it's your coaching will expose you very, very quickly if you're not yourself. So I haven't put on a persona. I've just tried to be me. I definitely have to take things more seriously and carry the weight of the responsibility of things that I haven't before, but that's more of a step up in a responsibility versus kind of me changing who I am or how I approach the game.
Cool. With the emergence of the London Mayhem women's team, and there being a few other teams that fall under the London Mets umbrella, how are you involved in their setups and player development as well? And do you have any cross training sessions that take place as well?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, the London Mets has got a ton of different teams, and it's been awesome to see, I think, more investment into the women's baseball community. That's been a quite exciting thing that's happened, even though I think some of the things that have brought attention to that community have not been good. It has been good to see kind of energy and focus and kind of, building new things in that direction.
Yeah.
In terms of like the Mets club training structure, we do have kind of joint, just because like we're constrained around the field. So the Mets practice at the same time as our two single A baseball teams, the Musketeers and the Minotaurs, on Tuesday nights, and then on Thursday nights we've got one of our AAA teams with us, the Mammoths. So there is an opportunity for more to kind of be around them, and which has been cool. I've gotten to talk to Gabby Shea, who's the head coach of the Minotaurs, a good bit, and she's awesome and invests just a ton of time and energy into single A, and and is quite hungry to learn. It's great to see when you have individuals like that are really eager and hungry to learn and get better as coaches, because that's what the game needs. I'd like to invest more time in single A, AA, and AAA, but between the personal life and work and the Mets, it's plenty to keep track of.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what then, as the coach of the Mets, what criteria do you look for in a player, or what sort of qualities do you want them to have to get them into the Mets uniform?
Yeah, I probably, I mean, I've seen so many different kind of things that work. It's almost like maybe going the other direction. There are things that I really don't like. I don't like people who lack grit. I don't like people who or bring a lot of arrogance. Those are types of things that I don't like to see. But in terms of like, hey, you got to throw 80, or I want to see, I like people that hit with an open stance. I'm very much like, I think our team has a ton of different diversities. We've got a bunch of guys from, different, a lot of different countries, different baseball environments that they've seen. And I think that actually breeds a lot of pretty compelling, camaraderie, and ends up with a blend of the game that is somewhat unique. And I think that's a pretty cool thing. So I would say I'm open to pretty much whatever, as long as it kind of works for you.
So that's not me asking for an audition, by the way. I'm more than happy.
Come on down.
Played at single A in Manchester. So what do you think then makes the with the group of players that you've got, what do you think makes the Mets one of the best teams in the country?
The ambition, I think, is a big part of it. You do have a group of people that they want to be better, and they want to do more, and they have that aspiration on kind of taking things to the next level. And that lack of content around where we collectively are with the game of baseball is something that is an important part of our culture. We're not happy being just the defending champions of the British Baseball Federation. That's not enough. We want to win this tournament, in Europe. And by the way, that's the lowest form of the tournament, and there are a lot of steps above that. So we've got a long way up to go. And I think that's something that we're all pretty excited about. And that's both how do we bring the right degree of focus to get better to help the Mets of today achieve the near term goals, but it's also why is it important for us to continue to invest in kind of the youth side of things and how to continue to improve that to kind of build the pipeline and continue to have success stories where British players are going to play collegiate baseball in the U.S. and professional baseball in the U.S. and Europe and that sort of thing. So I think that's the first one, just on the ambition side of things. I think the second one is just like a lot of love and a lot of camaraderie on the team. I think the feeling, I deal being in my position, I deal with all kinds of stuff with the club and the board and around the fields and where we're playing and the schedules. But when I come to practice and I show up and it's, Drake Yoshioka or Import and Zach Stroman are already hitting on the tee and got some music going, and it's a big hug or a big high five. It's just all that kind of melts away. And it's like, all right, we're here to do our thing. We're here to work. And by the way, like we all love doing it. And that's a pretty critical part of it as well, that I think is really important for us.
Yeah. When you look back at the baseball side of your life, is there anything that you feel like you could have done better, or is there anything that you would change?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly ask questions on occasion. Was hanging them up at 18 the right thing to do? I still think it probably was, just based on where I was physically at that point. So no qualms about that. I'm just glad I kind of got back to it. So and in such an interesting environment as well. So I'd like to think that maybe I could have gotten back to it a little bit quicker, but I'm just glad I got back to it at all. And again, feel like the best years are still kind of lay ahead.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like I'm a believer of all roads leading to here, no matter how bad they've been or how rocky they are. Like every path, every decision leads to now. Like, I mean, I've just turned, well, I say I've just turned 40. I've turned 40 like in September last year, and I was straight away, like even when I first turned up at training when I was in my very late 30s, I was kicking myself over why didn't I get involved in this earlier? Because I knew it was around, because I've been involved in like basketball and the ice hockey. I just never really looked for it. And someone said to me, like, baseball finds you don't find baseball. And I always thought that was quite interesting. But then I'm thinking, if I got involved in it like 5 years ago, would I still be involved now? Would I still be as passionate about it as I am now? Would I be doing a podcast about it? And I get all these questions, and I'm just like, do you know what? It's probably best not to think about it and just enjoy the ride that you're on now and see where it takes you.
Yeah,
that's very cool. Yeah. So what are your baseballing goals and plans for the future?
Yeah, like I said, we've certainly got some goals as a team. The CEB tournament's a big one. We're going to defend our national championship for the fifth year in a row, and we want to keep climbing from there. But again, I tend to be a big believer in just continue to push yourself and those who are interested in it further and further into the deep end, and that's gonna get you stronger. And you need a lot of need to make sure you don't drown. But that's a big part of what I did and kind of coming into this season to ensure that didn't happen is build an excellent coaching staff to support me, and have been fortunate to be surrounded by some really great baseball minds. So, John Crammon agreed to step up as the hitting coach. He's been doing this for a long time, but has been key there. Brendan Power has been just an absolute rock for the team on the field, but now in a coaching capacity as well, runs the defense. Brian Lainoff on the pitching side of things. Ryan Turtle, who's an absolute rock star, he coaches first base, and I've never seen somebody that's just like more hungry to learn about the game of baseball. And that's the sort of mentality that we really look for in the Mets, is those lifelong learners that want to get better and take pride and even, even the little things. And we got Derek Cooks, our bench coach. He's, he was drafted, played in the minors in the US, played pro ball in Mexico, and has been kind of a part of the Mets for a while. He's a great presence for us. And then we had Gaetano Cristiano, an Italian fellow, just kind of showed up on our doorstep this year, who played top division baseball in Italy, and has coached in a number of different countries. Italy, I think a bit in Germany, a bit down in Ethiopia, Ireland, and now he's here and he's helping out on the staff as well. And it's been a great veteran presence too. So, we're going to win seeds. We're going to defend our championship, but more importantly, we, including the staff, are going to continue to put our team in front of, hard and challenging environments. And that approach, I think, is limitless in terms of where it can take us.
That's cool. Who do you think then are going to be the biggest challenges to your title?
In the CB tournament, I think it's Russia, it's us, Russia, Bulgaria, and Switzerland. I think the host team's always going to be a challenge, and they beat us in 2018. It was a different one of their domestic teams, but they'll be good. The Russian team, again, a different team, but probably pulling from the same player pool. Were quite good in 2019. And then the team from Switzerland's a new team, so they're a bit of an unknown, but I'm expecting dogs in every single game there. And then domestically, we're it's a 6-team league this year. The top 4 go to the playoffs, and right now, if things kind of held up, that would be us, the London Capitals, the Essex Arrows, and the Lancashire Legends. And so the interesting thing about the British baseball kind of championship is there's no series. It's a one game 9-inning playoff in the semifinals and the finals. And that hasn't always been the case, but it's been the case for the last couple of years. And that's one that's just, it doesn't matter who you're playing. You can't get complacent for a single second in that kind of setup. Even if you're playing against a team who you beat every single game in the year, you've got to bring everything you can. So I hold them all equally in regard, and we will bring our A game no matter who we face on September 4th and September 5th.
That's cool. Do you prefer the series format, or do you think the single game, which sounds quite British, with like most games like cup finals being done? Do you prefer the single game or series?
I like a series. Yeah, I'm a big fan. There's a reason they do it in in pro baseball leagues, because it's it's a game where you like to see things play out over a long time horizon. There's a reason they play 162 games in Major League Baseball. Is it's a game that's so kind of geared towards failure. You kind of do want a little more time to see how things play out. But that's part of it. You can't really complain about the setup. You got to instead say that's what it looks like. Let's figure out how to win.
Yeah. That's cool. Rich, this has been an absolute blast. I've loved every minute of this. It's been a little while since I've done an interview, and I'm so glad that you were here to join me on this one. So now we're in the bottom of the 7th. I've got 3 final questions for you. So depending on how it sees, you're either going to get on base or you're going to strike out, and then we'll see who can walk them off at the end. So the first question is, Rich Minford, do you have any hidden talents?
I'm pretty proficient at Muay Thai. So I don't know if that counts, but if we were to get into a boxing ring, and I'd hold my own. The roundhouse kick's pretty strong.
Mate, if we got in a boxing ring, I'm just going to lie on the floor. I don't think I could lift my leg above my knee. I'm an old man. I used to do a bit of grappling and wrestling and stuff with like MMA quite a while ago. I do miss it. It was so much fun in
Yeah.
a really weird way. There is something, just something about that. Just as an exercise, I've never sort of got into any sort of brawl or fight. But yeah, but you've been 6'5", you're even bigger than me, and I'm 6'3". I'm like the tallest person that I know. So
Well,
I just think
I'll tell you the one of the reasons why it's just like I think humility is such an important trait is you take something like mixed martial arts. I've been to Thailand and trained in some pretty serious kind of Muay Thai camps, and there are 120-pound, 5'2" Thai guys that could kill me. They could literally kill me, and they're half my size. And it's one of those things where it's, you can't really judge anybody on how they look, because there's this, there's so many ways in which you can get really good at something. So it's it's another thing that's quite humbling.
Yeah, my trainer is called, his nickname's Monkey, and he's a fair bit older than me, and he'd just tie up in knots.
Yeah,
and it was just funny. Like I'd just like like my arm behind my back, and he'd be on my neck, and I'd piggybacking him, and he's like trying to tap me out and stuff. And I was like, I don't even know I got in this position. I just came in to ask a question. But yeah, it's fascinating sport. Is there anything that you're afraid of?
Yeah, I'm afraid of, I'm a procrastinator, so I'm afraid of things that are really, really important, but they're kind of far away. Because I know I'm not going to do what I need to do until I feel like my back's against the wall. So I have a fear of those kind of long-term deadlines that don't have any urgency.
Cool. And last one from me. Do you have any guilty pleasures?
I like to play a little bit of Super Smash Bros on the Nintendo. I'm pretty good at that too. That's one of my that's another, I don't know if that's a hidden talent or a guilty pleasure, but I'm pretty competent. Plays Donkey Kong.
I think that's going to be one of those things that's talked about in Legend. If you ever fancy a game, it'll be like in Rocky, where they have that fight behind closed doors. Who won? See, never mind the MMA stuff. Let's get Super Smash.
Okay.
Super
All
Smash
right.
will be where it's at.
Okay.
I just need to go and buy the game now.
Challenge accepted. Yeah, me too. I don't have it either, but
yeah, it's one of the things. It's always somebody else that has it, and you play on. Yeah, brilliant. Right, I'm happy with those. Bases are loaded. It's time to walk them off. Do you, Rich Minford, do you have any final words or any parting wisdom before we go? The floor is all yours.
Yeah, nothing else. I think I've said more than I'd planned to say, but absolute privilege, and I appreciate everything that you're doing to help grow the game and the country. I think it has some nice roots. It just needs some tender love and care, and I know I'm going to continue to inject as much energy into it as I can, and I appreciate what you're doing, and all the people that kind of help along the way, whether directly or indirectly, like my parents, who sacrificed so much to give me access to so much from a baseball perspective. That's a huge reason why I'm standing where I am today. So
definitely. One thing I was going to ask, with your dad being a Christmas tree farmer, did he ever whistle you a bat out of a Christmas tree?
He did not.
Ah.
Yeah, he did not. That's I'm going to take that back to him, because that's a miss, and that's potentially, interesting opportunity. Fraser Firwood. It's
Could be the new maple.
self pine tar with the Christmas tree sap as well. So
definitely, there you go. You can have that one.
Yeah.
Right, mate. Again, thanks again so much for your time. It's been great. I loved every minute of it, and I wish you and the Mets all the best luck in the future. And let us know how you get on in Europe.
Awesome, will do. Thank you, Matt.
Take care. Sarah. Thanks to my guest Richard, and thank you so much again to Mariana for her help in this. Setting the questions. I know I've added a few in the mix, but a majority of that was Mariana's work. Now, if you want to check out Mariana Casal's website, if you go to marianacasal.com, links are in the show notes. You'll be able to see a bulk of their work there too. Cheers.